Welcome to the House by Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William, and joining me today will be Derek.
Garbage Day.
And Sean.
Hello.
Derek, you blew our load.
Yep.
But we're going to be discussing Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. We had done the first one a year ago, 2 years ago. I don't remember. We did it around Christmas in the past couple years.
And this one is essentially the best of the original and then a little bit of plot.
So when you watch TV shows, especially network TV shows, are really bad about this, about having the clips episodes, like the best of.
Yeah, this is that.
This is because I remember there was like an episode of The Office where they're selling the company to someone else, and like the insurance adjuster comes in, he gives them a rundown of everything that's happened in the office. And it's like, network shows used to do that. They do the clip shows because it's like one runtime they can fill out with just prior episodes content. Yeah. So they just do like a very, very minimal amount of framing device or just straight clips. This movie did that.
And you get the first movie, but the first movie at least has some sort of, I don't know, you have a story there. You have a story and some sort of emotional investment. This rips all that out and shows you, the highlight kills and stuff. I think full spoilers.
Yeah, I was just
full spoilers throughout.
Where's this at? Is this on Prime or anything?
I watched it on
Amazon Prime.
Okay, it's on Shudder as well. Joe Bob just happened to just do this too last night or Friday night.
I guess where I'm at with this movie is there an interesting actual plot to this?
No.
I disagree. I think if you took the actual psychological aspect of like looking into what creates a serial killer, are they produced? Are they born? Can something traumatic in your life cause you to go down that route too? I think that's interesting. Did they do this in an appropriate way at all? No.
But they basically just did what the first one did.
Yeah,
it's just his little brother. But I'm saying they already did that.
Yeah. But they have like an interest. This franchise as a whole has an interesting
Here's where it goes completely off the rails.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's where it goes off the rails and it's nonsense.
Because he's a baby.
So you start off with Ricky. The first, 3, 4, 5 minutes, there's no dialogue. It's just a bunch of B-roll of him sitting there smoking in the room as they set up a recorder.
Which is honestly preferable to him speaking.
Oh, he is so
the actor...
his line delivery is like, so Doc, what do you think?
And you forget though, but you've got to use your eyebrows whenever you say a vowel or consonant or anything with any...
And I don't want to bash his acting because
apparently he's warmed up to it. Like they found him years later. I watched the Joe Bob one just because I have context. They found him years later. All the fans did because I think everybody assumed he went into hiding because of this performance. And I think apparently he has a good sense of humor about it. Yeah. So I feel okay us being open about it because this guy wasn't. I'm saying
I don't want to be because he obviously wasn't a professional actor. Yeah. I probably couldn't do any better job than he did. But I like to see that the director was like, all right, look. To convey emotion, just open your eyes up and do really big eyebrows and talk sarcastically. And he was like, I got it.
Well, too, let's talk about the gestation of this. So the original film, did it get pulled after a couple weeks? I guess it was. Yes. It came out the same year as Nightmare on Elm Street, right?
It was pretty controversial because it was one of the first big time. I don't know. There's Black Christmas, but a movie that has a Santa Claus killing people really set off something in the public. People being angered and upset about it. So it didn't stay in theaters long and it got pulled, but it made good money on video.
They said it was making more money than it was beating Nightmare on Elm Street in theaters for the first 2 weeks. It was doing really well.
But then they pulled it.
It got pulled. And then I was trying to hammer out some notes. And anyway, in spring of 85, it got a re-release. I think it may be in theaters. I don't know. And then Live Entertainment did a 1986 VHS release. So Live Entertainment, I think, is the ones that wanted to do the sequel. Yeah. In 87, May of 87, they made the sequel. And there's been some debate on the budget, but essentially the producers of that said, hey, they got to with an editor. I don't know if I don't think he worked on the first one, but they said, hey, can you just re-edit a new movie with the old footage and not shoot anything new?
Yeah.
And so apparently that editor and some other guy wrote for a couple days and they're like, look, we need some money to shoot something new because we can't make a new movie from nothing.
Yeah.
And so there's reports of being 100,000, some 250,000.
Basically, way under $1 million.
Way under $500,000, probably.
Yeah.
So also you got to take in consideration this was from a non-writer, non-director as well. Yeah. So no experience directing actors, which is obvious. No experience probably writing any produced screenplays or anything, which is obvious based on the dialogue and the delivery, just everything about it. And this is all coming from a situation of, people just trying to make money the cheapest way possible. Yeah. It's such a cynical cash grab.
But that's what makes it so great.
That's what makes me almost hate it more than some from that element.
Yeah.
Because it is okay, this isn't somebody like with a passion failing. That one guy was just doing a job. Everybody was doing a job, that's fine, but the gestation of it was completely for money. This is the opposite of like, hey, we're going to make a sequel, but then we give it to a director and he tries to do his own thing, maybe like Nightmare on Elm Street 2, even though some people don't like that. I love it. Like those directors at least get to do their own thing. They get to shape it. This is like, let's do your own thing as cheap as possible. And yeah, so for me, and the acting and everything, it's laughable and it's enjoyment. So for me, it goes from like, you know, your movie starts out at a 10 maybe, and then somewhere I just get so angry at this, it goes to a 1, I think, but then it goes back around to a 10, and then it goes right back down to like maybe a 3 for me. It doesn't loop because it is like, man, there's some stuff in this film.
Here's the thing I love about it. He comes in, he's supposed to be a badass. You don't really know why, right? And then the doctor and him have this back and forth. And at no point do him and the doctor ever get an emotional connection to each other that would make sense for him, like opening up and telling him all this stuff. It just, he's talking. He's like, oh, so then you got to switch out the tapes. And just like, there's,
People are making fun of like Marriage Story, which I think Marriage Story is good. I watched it on Netflix. I think it's good. You watch any scene out of context, sometimes you're like, it may not connect or whatever.
There's no context in a lot of these scenes.
And the Marriage Story, I think that's a good scene people are sharing around. It's the build up in the film, like it's good. But some people are, of course, like making fun of it because everybody likes to make fun of everything. But it's like, they're like, oh yeah, this is some of the most basic acting class improv or whatever. It's like, no, this feels more like acting class improv.
Well, and to the thing about this movie that makes absolutely no sense. So the conceit of it makes no sense, and it breaks everything and doesn't make any damn sense at all. So
forced.
So the movie's runtime isn't all that long to begin with, but like 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes of it are just comprised of footage from the first film that happened with Billy, the older brother of Ricky, who's our main character in the second film.
Yeah.
So Ricky would not have been present for any of the stuff that happened. And so I understand that maybe Billy could have told his younger brother Ricky about what happened to their parents and how their parents passed away with the Santa. So I understand, okay, I'll buy that.
And he could have seen the abuse.
No. So what happened to their parents and what happened at the orphanage, that is stuff that Ricky could have been told about. Now, the stuff where Billy goes to the department store and kills everybody and goes on the rampage and then gets stopped by the police, there's no way he would have known any of that happened. Like
somebody else could have told him.
The only thing is like if he read the police report, but he's retelling this back to the psychiatrist that should have had all this. So you have that. So once it gets through all the original movies footage,
which is excruciating. You know, it's like turning on a new episode of a TV show and like, oh, here's a recap of last week, and it's like a minute long. This is 45 minutes.
It had been so long since I watched, because I don't think I was on the podcast for Sound Night, Deadly Night.
Did we do that just last year?
Yeah, I may have not been on it. So I have not, if I did, it's been long enough I have not watched, I don't remember watching that movie.
From your memory.
Yeah, so it just kind of, so for me it was, for me it wasn't like, oh, okay, I remember all this. It's kind of like a refreshing, like, okay.
Because I went to watch.
I wondered how much of it was like new additional unused footage from the first movie. And then I went and read about it and it was like, no, this is legit just pulled from the first movie.
So like when Don Coscarelli made Phantasm 4, they did not have enough money to shoot like a full feature-length film to the quality they wanted. So they used deleted scene or unused footage from the shoot of the first film to pad out additional footage they shot at the time. That makes some sense, using unused footage to show different perspectives, and especially in a series where the continuities is loose because everything's kind of a dream logic world there. That makes more sense. But in this, just showing us the exact same footage from the first film, like the Friday the 13th could have done this.
And a lot of films do that. I was trying to think of what other films basically re-edit it. There's a lot of foreign films that get re-edited. You know what I mean? And they change stuff around, especially like we were talking about last episode, Godzilla's. You know, they'll re-edit those, change those. They give them new context sometimes, new storylines. This is not even trying to do that. It's just retelling it. And I was like trying to figure out what other films did this, and I couldn't find any. I found plenty of lists. It's like films that reuse footage from other movies, and there's tons of those, of course. But a lot of times it's little snippets or something. You know, like Blade Runner uses shots from The Shining that were not used. Yeah. You know, like I said, as long as you didn't use any footage we use, you can use these shots. But like, to use like so much of the film is just insanity. It drove me
for it to
mad.
be a sequel that
because I'd never
supposedly
seen this before.
for a movie that supposedly progresses the story from a first film and a second film. This one spends most of its time rehashing the events from the first film, and it wasn't like they were 20 years apart, so you're trying to give a refresher.
Even Evil Dead 2 does the first film in less time, 20 minutes.
Yeah, because Evil Dead 2 was where from 1 to 2, they didn't have the rights to the footage because of the production companies. Yeah. So they just reshot a condensed version of the first film in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that at least
gave you context.
That confused people because they're like, well, why is he going back? Why is he going back to the cabin? It was really funny. It's like kind of a separate thing. Like I made a video about the Evil Dead franchise, the original 3 films. And at one point in the video, I'm like, so Ash went back to the cabin with a new girlfriend, also named Linda. And apparently somebody had just got to that point and rage quit the video and let this scathing comment. And then I saw like 4 hours later, they deleted it because I guess they watched the rest of the video. Because the very next thing I say is, well, not actually.
Yeah.
But with this movie, so you have the element of Ricky retelling all the story of Billy, which wasn't even his story to tell. So there's less impact if it's somebody else secondhand knowledge.
If they went through like, and there's a bunch of, I guess at this point it's been done over and over again, but they had some type of psychic link together. Like maybe they had the shared trauma.
But there was nothing about that.
Yeah, I'm saying, but they went through and like just said the shared trauma they endured as a kid kind of psychically linked them.
They basically just said, we have, as a mandate, we have to use footage from the first film.
Because we have to make this 88 minutes.
So how can we make this make any sense whatsoever? Well, let's just have his younger brother retell his story, and he's in prison. So it's kind of the thing of, a lot of movies and TV shows, you start out the character that's in lockup, and they're given the backstory and how they got there. So once the movie...
Which you're revealing information. There's no information revealed for the first 45 minutes if you've seen that original
and then
film.
It's really...
Other than... Get ready for some scenes with this actor who can't do this interrogation scene believably.
And then, it was kind of cool that at one point, the security guard guy keeps coming back and forth.
Yeah.
He's like,
but it's very...
He never says anything.
At that era, it was very stereotypical when you had a character that was in, a facility or place like that, institution, that the people working there was always, a larger African-American man. Because you had that in... Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Yeah.
You had that because it was Lawrence Fishburne who go on to be a huge superstar in the future. I'm trying to think what other even the Silence of the Lambs did that with the one recurring character from the multiple different iterations of the films. But so you have that element. Then you get to the new footage. So Ricky as a kid did get adopted out. And
which it was kind of interesting because one thing I liked is the adoptive. See, there's enough there that they wrote even with that to make it interesting because
but somehow
he had issues and then the parents went back to the orphanage and hey, you never told us about any of this. We didn't know this.
He can't look at the color red.
Yeah, but instead the parents were okay, screw it, we're going to dump it. We're going to make it work. So I did like that because how many movies have we watched where they do that and they just get rid of the kid?
But then you have but then the funny, so you have him as a kid, a small kid, and he's terrified by the color red and by nuns, which would make sense. But then you show footage of him when he's supposed to be a teenager, and it's a dude who's in his 20s.
Yeah, that was...
So it made no sense that you have the actor that doesn't even look like your main actor, who's young, who's supposed to be a younger teenage version, but he's mid-20s.
He's the same age as the guy that's
the age of the guy that's supposed to be playing.
Again, though, there's certain elements that
is that the scene in the field?
Yeah, which again,
where you see there's so they kind of they tried to do a match cut thing to the first film of the assault of his mother by Santa. So then he just goes and runs over this dude with his Jeep multiple times.
And see, to me, that's more of a match with
kind
what
of
Billy did.
Raiders of the Lost Ark type.
It's kind of...
And two, so Joe Bob brought up the point that the girl in the field, she last minute, he was she decided she didn't want to do any nudity, last second,
Yeah.
And he said, actually, I believe in this point it is relevant to the story because it was supposed to be an exact, almost replica of what he didn't see, but his brother saw. You know what I mean? And so, but I think it worked fine enough. They made it work, but it was an interesting thing. It was okay, actually the nudity does matter here in some regards. You got the point across.
And the overall context of
it didn't break anything. No, for sure.
With the storytelling this movie had on display, I don't think they earned someone's trust to do something they wanted.
Yeah. But I do think that there are just looking at stuff that's written properly, that could be an interesting scene of like the dynamic between.
But the other thing is,
well, hold on, because when Billy did it in the first movie, the response to the woman was, you know, you're insane, you're crazy. Whereas the response for this one is like, well, thank you.
she's like,
Yeah, but I'm saying, but like, again, it's written poorly. But there is an interesting concept because Billy's first taste of murder goes where it goes. You know, he doesn't get to be the hero he thinks he's going to be. He didn't. He gets to go and be the hero that his family didn't get. But the reaction is very poor.
And I'm saying this myself. We shouldn't say what the film should have been, but there would have been a good jumping off point for her to be like a Mrs. Claus, like natural born killers thing, where after he kills her, she's like, all right, I'm on, let's go get her.
Yeah, but I always kind of look at it and it's like, to me, it's interesting because, like, again, they did not do this probably anything intentionally. Is the dynamics between his first kill and Billy's first kill.
But the difference is, and the thing that kind of breaks all this, is it wasn't even like flashbacks to the scene when it happened.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
He didn't see it.
No, he didn't see it. He didn't see it. That's what's weird. But yeah, they were match cutting it exactly. Yeah. So that's what the point was about the nudity.
The dumb thing though, he did say, I was there. I was a baby. Yeah. I mean, he did say that. You're not going to remember. And the doctor's like, you can't remember it. You don't know that. So there was like...
My eyebrows are telling you?
My eyebrows
a different story. They retain knowledge, dude.
God. Okay, and then you have... That was like his first kill. And then my favorite kill of the movie, which is just so ridiculous and doesn't even fit the narrative of any of this, is the mobster he kills with the umbrella. Because he's like at a restaurant... And
as a busboy?
As a busboy, and he's like this...
He's supposed to be 18 or 20.
But he's this like super tall, muscular dude.
It's the lead from the film, but he's wearing a white tight t-shirt.
But he's like, he's like later on, he's with a shirt on, he's like a pretty muscular dude. So, but there's like a mobster shaking a guy down the back for money, and he beats him up. So then he picks him up with one hand like Mike Myers or... Not Mike Myers, Michael Myers. Or Jason Voorhees.
Are you dead, baby?
Yeah, he stabs him with the umbrella. And it's like, what?
So it's a cool gag, makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good kill.
But it's also because it was red, and that enrages him.
I did like the line when he's the loan shark saying something like, I hope you don't pay on Monday because I enjoy doing this, when he's like beating him up. Like, that's a pretty good line.
But then, so Ricky picks him up with one hand, stabs him through the umbrella, then opens it.
Yeah.
Like, cool gag, completely nonsensical, but that was like a cool 80s type slasher.
And then
that's why people are there.
And then, like, they show a picture of a beautiful woman, and he's like, the only person I didn't want to die. And then it's his girlfriend that he had.
Yes, yeah.
And how they met was like she wrecked his motorcycle, so he's about to
It took him like 5 minutes to finally fall over on it.
Yeah, he's like
he probably didn't have a stunt budget or any pads or anything, so they didn't want to mess the motorcycle up because somebody probably personally owned it or something. So then it basically goes from her knocking him off his motorcycle and him looking all pissed off till he sees she's hot. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
And then very much like, which is really funny. So this is set in the 80s before all the current incel culture stuff. It was very much like, she was my first, and I thought that I was her first too.
That's, it's funny you brought up incel. Joe Bob brought that up for the Kill in the Field, and they were talking about it's like an incel fantasy where it's like the guy who gets laid or whatever. Yeah, guy who gets laid gets killed. He was like, that's like the incel fantasy. Like he's an incel hero or whatever at that point.
His 24 or 5-year-old actor body.
Yeah.
But like, so,
I also enjoyed the movie theater scene.
Oh, yeah.
It made me feel like
it's so good.
It's like almost like a George Costanza, when George Costanza is getting mad.
Yeah. Because I just like too, you have these very, like up to a 10 jerkwad dude that's like making fun of the movie, which the movie is his life story,
let's break this down. This is some fourth wall breaking stuff. So the scene that is in the movie they're watching, so she's like, what movie even is this?
Yeah.
Or
he asked that.
And she's like, oh, it's where Santa kills people.
And he's like, what?
But then the footage that they're showing in the movie is from the first film of the Santa robbing before his parents get killed. So it's one of those weird mind things. It's like, so this is a universe where this happened to him in real life and his family, but then also the events are a movie he can watch with the same people.
You're very gracious in calling this a universe. That means they had to actually have some thought process to it.
But I think the best scene on the entire movie, which I'm going to do a William with Troll here, and every scene's the best, is the guy's heckling the movie and talking about how crappy it is and stuff. And then this is the Seinfeld moment, because the next scene he's sitting there, goes to look over to his buddy, and then it's our lead actor who's like, hi, and then you just see him go to the ground, popcorn fly everywhere. So
slapstick comedy.
Yeah, but people kind of look over and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that he's murdered everybody up to this point. He killed that guy and his buddy, so they're dead.
So
in the theater.
it's like that scary movie scene where the girl's at the movie theater and she's like, damn, they're gonna kill her, and then like eventually all the audience members start stabbing her.
Oh
and
yes,
stuff.
yeah.
And then you have, what was his name, Chet or whatever, I don't remember, the boyfriend, and he's like heckling the girl, and you know, like, we used to be together, and then he's like, I gotta go because she doesn't like to, and apparently he'd paid a hooker, so he like leaves, and then for whatever reason his Mustang is broke down in front of her house, like the next scene after that, and that's when he like talks about having sex with her, and it sends
It's like, this is my rat. I used to do her in the back seat.
Yeah, it sends you into rage,
Oh,
which
gross.
again, the another best scene in the movie is, which actually is a pretty good kill, is when he hooks the car charger up to his tongue.
Oh yes,
And
yeah.
the battery and turns it on. But you know, if you're sitting there, the laws of physics would dictate in this world that you would also be shocked because you're anyway. But I like how it blows his eyes up.
And help me remember, after this, is this when he kind of just starts killing people?
Well, then no, and then he kills his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
With
she's like, "You're
the-
crazy, you're crazy."
And he takes the antenna off of the car.
That's right, wraps around her
and
neck.
chokes her and kills her. And then the cop shows up and he's like, "Put him up, buddy. And I got this gun. I know how to use it." It's like terrible acting.
So then he makes him shoot himself in the head.
And he takes gun and like flips it over, shoots the cop in the head, and then he goes on a Grand Theft Auto type killing spree.
Where he uses every single bullet in the gun.
Yeah, which he has a 6-shooter. He probably shoots at least 10, 12 times. And then he shoots the guy getting his garbage. He's like, garbage day. And then the guy, like, what I like about this is he has no idea what's going on. He's like, oh no. And he starts like running away. He just guns him down.
And the way it's shot is like really like garbage day, and he shoots, and it's like real quick jump cuts back and forth. But obviously they didn't have the budget for squibs and all that stuff.
And then which I actually think all their budget
Garbage
was on the
day
next
is good.
scene. Because you get the car coming down the street, he just is sitting there shooting at the car. It flips over and explodes. That was the entire
too, where
budget.
that was probably an incredibly dangerous scene to shoot.
Well, because the stunt guy was actually right there next to
Yeah,
the car.
that's a joke. I was talking to the stunt guy. Like, he did really good work in this. I can't remember
Not
what.
running
yeah,
away.
I can't remember what. No, but he said, yeah, it was like, you know, he was inches away essentially. Yeah.
So that just went. That was went wrong one bit. And I love the car flips or it explodes.
Oh, my favorite thing too we forgot to mention is when he's telling the story. So once we get past all of the stuff,
Oh,
in
the
first
doctor's
movie,
sweaty.
No, the doctor. Once the doctor knows all the backstory about what happened with his brother Billy, and then when he tells him about the kills that he wasn't aware of, like when he ran over the guy, and he has the notebook. It's like red car. It's like
and he's like, red car, nice dog.
You forget the naughty thing too when he was like naughty. Like, it's like he's programmed and it's his
What was it
activate
too?
his.
The brother did that
Well,
too.
there's
And
a
they did
scene-
say it's like a Pavlov's
There's
dog.
a scene where he's the kid and he says naughty, but it's the adult actor's voice over the kid.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And it's really just funny because the doctor is just like, I didn't know about this murder. A red car, I look in a red car, I can't remember the words red car.
But then there's like the next scene where he looks up and he's just covered in sweat. And he's like, oh, you didn't know about that, did you, Doc? You didn't know about that? And he's like, well, I do declare. And he's like, I don't know what he said,
Well, it's
but
funny
he's
too, because apparently in IMDb, like some of the trivia is the guy moves his eyebrows over 130 times.
Somebody counted. That's great.
And it's like, I
That's
forget what the
great.
exact count was, but it's, it's a lot. It's over 100. And it's just like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. So I think a lot of times what happens is they said, we want this actor to be kind of beefy and kind of like muscular. And we want somebody that has this very specific physical look, but we do not have the money to go after the very niche amount of actors in the 80s that are built like bodybuilders who also can act. Because today's world,
There's a lot.
the physical requirements for a lot of those roles have drastically changed. A lot of people who act also are shredded because that's what a lot of those movies call
They
for.
probably should just let the stuntman do the acting too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, get an accomplished stunt person. I mean, but the point being, like, they probably went after somebody that didn't have as much experience and just fit the exact physical look. They
Oh, yeah,
wanted,
that's what they did.
and just made all kinds of concessions based on that. And then, of course, if you don't do a lot of acting,
Again, yeah, having
His
an editor
thought
direct, and he don't know how to direct him either. Probably, he doesn't know how to direct the actor. Casting, he may have made bad decisions in the casting. I don't know who the casting
Just
director
act crazy.
was.
but apparently, like,
Yes.
I'd heard that like the garbage day they had probably done like a few different line readings, like more subdued, and then they just went to the one where he took it to 11.
Hey, you watching Garbage day, right?
That's when you actors have trust in the directors and editors. Like, okay, I trust they're going to do the best decision, and they did the best decision for the movie, not for the actor's reputation. It's like they screwed him over. They screwed him over, but it made him a legend.
But there's like back in the day of Facebook and YouTube and stuff, they had like worst movie deaths or worst movie deaths.
It's always on the list.
That was always on there, so it's funny when you finally get to watch the movie and you're like, it's that bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that movie, like a lot of the other movies that are on those like top 10 worst movie kills or whatever, they're usually from like Bollywood films or low budget, like films from India or, Indonesia or places where they, somebody shoots a gun and it takes 30 seconds for the bullet to get to them. Because there's the one where somebody's like in a bedroom and they get shot and they
got shot like 5 times.
They throw like ketchup on their shirt or something.
Oh, that's not a Bollywood film. There's American actors in that because it's like a woman that shoots him because she.
I just remember.
And then he screams again. He starts screaming again.
Yeah. Okay, so regardless, all that stuff kind of blends together in my mind. Yeah. The point is, when they made this movie, they had no idea because plenty of people know about the Garbage Day scene, but do not know what it's from.
What it's from? Because
So how did they think that when they made this movie in the late 80s that it would be that one scene would be seen by millions?
They probably just laughed their asses off and said, "We got to put that in there because it's." It's something. It's something. It's something.
But you think about it, it's like Garbage Day, and then the guy's like, like he automatically knows that because if someone walked up to you,
he's got a gun,
but you don't know. He doesn't know what he's done.
I mean, you would hear gunshots,
but he was outside like. It wasn't like he was fearfully putting the trash out. He was just hanging out, putting the trash out, and then the guy shows up.
Do you hear gunshots? I'm gonna run out and take the garbage out real quick.
A car just exploded, and there's a couple dead people over there. Let's go put the trash out.
That guy.
But so then you have the element of then he gets caught by the police. The cops have him surrounded when he just walks up unaware and there's like a police blockade that he somehow didn't see.
Yeah, and there's a car that's exploded behind him.
He puts the gun to his head and he pulls the trigger
not worth it.
And it's empty.
No, but before he does it, the cop's like, "Don't do it. It's not worth it, man." And it's like he just blew a dude's head up. He strangled a woman.
You could make a statement about the socio-political stuff where if somebody was walking around with a gun after being an active shooter who killed people today, the cops would not be waiting for them to put the gun down, especially if they were a non-white person based on anecdotal evidence of what we've seen. But it's just funny in this movie, not funny, but just to think about that, which this movie is not serious at all. But if you just think about maybe the perception at the time, it's like the cops would try to get you not to kill yourself. As a day, they would not only would they not tell you to not shoot yourself, they'd be using their assault rifle to headshot you and then high-fiving.
Yeah, but they would be deservedly that because he just cold-blooded murdered 4 people.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares what his what drove him to do that?
But they're like, don't
Judge,
do it.
jury, and executioners over here.
Judge Dredd. But it's
I'm just saying.
I mean, you just think about it,
I'm not above the law.
Because in the background of that shot, there is a car burning and a dead man by his trash can. He's obviously guilty, and they're like, don't kill yourself. It's not worth it. And then he's like, no.
As opposed to today, they would just headshot him from a mile away and go sprinkle some crack on him.
They had an idealistic version of authority, and they're like, hey, look, we got to try this guy. We got to figure out the proper punishment.
But the last cop that he murdered was like, I got a gun. You know what that is? You know what that does? And then he killed the cop. He killed the boyfriend. He killed the girl. He killed the trash man guy, and he killed the car. So he killed 5 people. Yeah.
So then you have the element of
within 10 minutes.
He's after
and that's when it gets good.
He escapes.
It takes a long time.
He escapes from the mental institution.
How did he even escape from that? Because I honestly cannot remember.
He killed the guy.
He kills the doctor.
He used the tape to kill the doctor, which the tape wouldn't work. It would break. But whatever. And then he escapes, and then he's puts on the Santa suit, and he kills the Santa, the Salvation Army Santa, and calls, I guess, the nun and says something about
naughty,
and then for some reason Mother Superior is a different actress, and she's got decayed stuff on her face.
They said there was
she supposedly had a stroke.
Yeah, she had a stroke, and that was it. That's all they said, I believe.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
A stroke doesn't cause your face to become deformed and have bulbous boils.
Yeah, well, I guess they're trying to make her an enemy figure.
Well, and that's what Joe Bob said. This film points at Catholic Church for the reason for everything. You know what I mean? They are always they're the reason why. Granted, he had a trauma what was his brother's name?
Billy.
Billy had some trauma.
they never addressed
but
it.
But it's like everything else is because of the Catholic Church in this film, basically.
Well, and two, so you have like the nun who treated them poorly as kids, who he decides to go after. And once again, like you said, her face has like these weird deformities, and I guess part of it is they didn't have the same actress. They thought that by doing that you wouldn't notice. But don't they misattribute some of the stuff too to which nun did things in the first film?
Honestly, I don't remember.
In the first film, I thought it was just there was the good nun, and then there was Mother Superior. But yeah, I mean, this kind of mucks it up a little bit because he also kills the original detective that killed his brother, right? Because he kills a cop. He kills the detective once he gets out because they bring that up, and that's what makes...
Oh, yeah, doesn't he?
He kills the one that killed his brother.
Yeah.
Is that something that's shown on screen?
Yeah.
Now I'm getting it mixed up because I was thinking about the scene. From the first movie?
Yeah,
doesn't he kick a guy down the stairs or shoot a guy down the stairs?
No, he acts as a cop in the chest.
That's from the first movie, though, right?
Yeah, and then he gets shot in the back by there's like the good nun and then the detective, and then he kills that detective in this one on his way to kill Mother Superior.
And then
and that's why they get alerted to what he's doing.
Mother Superior, when he's in there. So doesn't he say moo? He holds the axe up and he says moo.
So.
It sounds like he says moo.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I'd seen.
They're like, say boo. He's like, moo.
Because I had watched.
We got it. We're out of money.
When I watched it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'd seen like on Twitter people talking about it, and it's just like that's so nonsensical. Like I should have listened. I should have watched it with the captions on and seen if it.
Well. Man, was it?
All right, so after that, so basically, how does this end? I've already forgotten.
So the nun's head is cut off.
No. They have a showdown, and she has a knife, and he has an axe, and she's like, "Come get it," or whatever. I don't know what she says. But then you have the next scene cut over, and then she's just sitting there at the table, and another nun comes in, and the cop comes in, and like Mother Superior, and her head falls off. Then so the nun passes out. And then what's his name? Ricky jumps through the glass window, and they just shoot him up a couple times with the gun and a shotgun, and he maybe dies.
Didn't he open his eyes at the end?
Yeah, he opens his eyes at the end.
Yeah.
And then there's like a stabbing motion, but I don't think it was him.
Yeah, it's just something.
Yeah.
So apparently, after this, they made direct-to-video sequels.
Like they made 3 more.
Was he in?
And then a remake, which apparently the remake's really bad. But part 4 was made by Brian Yuzuna, who did...
One of them has Bill Moseley in it.
Oh, yeah, I think it's the next one. I think it's 3. Brian Yuzuna, who did Night of the Living Dead, or Return of the Living Dead 3. The director of that did the 4th one of this. But apparently it has nothing to do with Christmas.
Yeah.
But it's called Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 because he wanted to do something different, which he seems like a guy that just wants to do something different.
Like
and then I think the special effects guy on that worked on Society, which again that has amazing special effects.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 1 took place in Christmas and had snow in places. I'm assuming they shot where there was actual snow on the ground. This movie seems like they just shot it in LA, just quick and easy, or definitely in the summer. They did not shoot this in the winter at all.
And apparently, something else he brought up, Mickey Rooney bashed the first one when it came out, because I don't know if he was playing Santa Claus and something, but apparently he like trashed that first one. But then when they made the 5th one in '91, he was in that movie.
It's just funny how sometimes like those franchises will cross over because Scary Movie and Scream had actors that were in both, or the actors from those movies worked with the other. It's just funny how this stuff crosses over. I did not watch 3, 4, 5. No, I know that they're...
Maybe one day.
Yeah, I just don't know that I need to...
Apparently, Bill Moseley has some sort of thing on his head where you can see his brain. Like, it's a see-through thing. Like, I don't know if it's like a cat. Yeah, I don't know if it's a cat, but they said you could actually see his brain in that, apparently.
It's just...
anything else about this movie?
Yeah, I mean, because the runtime...
Some of it is so painful. Me personally, it was so painful. I would see if there's a section where you can watch the last whatever minutes on YouTube or something.
Well, it's one of those things where you have like Troll 2 and these other movies that are so bad they're fun to watch. It doesn't achieve that level even because the majority of the runtime is just the flashbacks to the first film. So if this entire movie was the kind of crazy Ricky going around over the top acting type stuff,
I would prefer it if they made a cut of this. It wouldn't make sense, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense anyway. Make a cut of this where they take out all the footage from the original film. You know what I mean? Just see his scenes talking to the police officer with no context, and then go into everything. So I don't know what I give this. It was a very painful watch for me. Again, I enjoyed the end of it, but the road to there was very long.
I mean, like, look, if you haven't seen the original, or it's been a long time since you've watched it, there is enough toward the end of this movie that makes it enjoyable.
But I think the original's good. Yeah. So it's almost like I would say, even though this is funnier, I would watch the original and just wait 5 years to watch this one or something.
I don't know, because you get kind of like the best. You get kind of like the best of the original, and then you get the awfulness of this movie. But like once he gets out of the once it says how he gets into the asylum or prison wherever he's at, like that entire setup from the theater to the end of the movie gets really enjoyable.
Yes, yeah.
Because like it's very Seinfeld-esque or like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
He's just
where he's in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like, that was great. And then like the rest of it.
Did George say, I'm take you outside and give you a what for?
Yeah.
Like,
are you like where he messes with the serial killer on the airplane?
Yeah.
And they run each other to the bathroom at the end. And that's like this. That's that part.
Yeah, it's like if like when the guy is being yelling in the theater and then he turns around and the guy's there, that would be like the end of a Seinfeld episode with George being a jerk and then the guy. And then there'd be no real fallout because it's a sitcom. But like, so this movie had just been an entire film of ridiculousness like that.
It'd been, I recommend it.
And just like a very small amount of flashback stuff just to kind of, like most of those movies do the kind of 5-minute catch up at the beginning to get. So if it just done that, then it would have been easier to be like, this is so bad and so crazy, you need to watch it because it's entertaining. It's especially good for a drinking game. Drink every time he says naughty, blah, blah, blah.
Don't drink every time he raises his eyebrows, though.
You'll be drunk.
You'll be
dead by 20 minutes in.
Yeah, you'll be in the hospital.
But like, overall...
Unless you're like just taking a sip of beer.
You're probably better off just seeing there's like a supercut on YouTube of all the fun moments.
I hate to say that about films, but and maybe give it a shot.
We're all taking this in differently because I really enjoyed watching it. It got so
and again,
stupid.
I just probably because I remember the last one so well, and I actually liked the last one quite a bit. I don't remember what I gave it, but in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that was actually a movie. This is just so there's no coherent structure other than the last like.
With this movie, I look at what it could have been, and I'm not factoring into the score I give it. I'm saying I look at like they obviously made nothing intentional at all about this movie, but there is some interesting plots they could have had and some parallels between the two movies, and they didn't do any
before it gets to the new stuff at the end. I was thinking about this. I'm like, this is worse than the Cabin Fever remake. For me, it was the first part of it because it's exactly the same thing. Only they take out any like they take out any like they tell you, but it takes out any emotion of it or anything. Like it is worse than it was. It's a bigger sin than the Cabin Fever remake. But thankfully, there's a little bit of extra new stuff in there that's totally new.
Yeah, once it gets I can get that because essentially, like, this movie was just 100% a cash grab. There was nothing else other than to it, and they just want, There
was no artistic intent in the front end. It was simply...
There was no artistic intent throughout. I mean, it just happened to get a couple...
They probably did try when they actually got the chance to shoot for, I think, 10 days and a few $100,000 or whatever it was. Yeah. They probably did try to do the best job they could, but having a very small amount of time, having what was an extremely limited budget for the time, and having inexperienced, actors and stuff.
Inexperienced director.
Because, like, if you talk about today, if you had $200,000, you can rent an Arri Alexa and go shoot some stuff that looks good.
The only bad thing is, if this movie was done today with another movie, like, the garbage day would have never become a thing. Because it'd be so buried.
Well,
so the fact
this came out in today's world, there's so many movies that are attempting to pull off that level of stuff. Back then, it was they arrived at that making the movie honestly.
This is like if you if they gave Tommy Wiseau, let him do the sequel to, I don't know, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. And the first 45 minutes is a recap, and the last is him going around with the Freddy Krueger claw, just slashing people up. Like, that's what this film is.
I did not do it.
And you want to get past the first part, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to get...
Yeah, that's fair. The guy that they have is, I want to say his actual name. I just looked him up. His name is Eric Freeman. That's his actual name. He's 54. But he was entertaining accidentally, you know.
And again, I don't put this all on him
No,
because
it's-
it depends on the director too, making good decisions.
Yeah.
So,
I guess
all
we'll
right.
So I think we can wrap up our discussion of Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
2. Yep.
It's on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out.
And Shudder with the Joe Bob thing, get a lot of context, which for me is way more enjoyable to watch
Yeah,
that.
so you probably watch the
because
Joe
I'm like,
Bob.
at least he's talking about the movie, and I can it brings up a lot of interesting points and stuff like that. So I prefer that if you're just gonna have it on and half watch it, and then pay attention towards the end.
Yep. So that'll wrap up our discussion on Silent Night.
Merry
Deadly Night
Christmas,
2.
Happy Holidays.
Yeah. Merry Festivus.
We'll have one out before New Year's. Yeah, we'll have another one out before New
Yeah,
Year's.
because I think this will be the last episode this month that covers any type of Christmas movie. Because the week
Yes,
this is
yeah.
kind of like the week of Christmas.
Maybe we'll do one more movie, and then we'll then
do the
maybe
best
in
of.
January we'll figure out something, because sometimes I need time to catch up too.
Yeah.
Some stuff hits video like right after
And
Christmas.
then sometimes too, if you want, you kind of want to rewatch something.
Yes, for
you know.
sure. I want to rewatch a few things. So
Yep. So if you're liking what we do, you can go to hbtvs.com, find all of our social media links to everything else we do. That'll be this episode of the House by the Video Store podcast. Thanks for listening.